Hi guys, welcome back to Salt Creek Living. Today I'm going to show you one of my favorite Thanksgiving hacks. It is a time saver and it's right up my alley because I'm lazy when it comes to this kind of stuff. I'm going to show you today how we make apple pie using pie filling that we have canned years ago, and it's been on our shelf. Now this one, it did separate it. When I was doing it, I cooked the sugars too long and they actually caramelized, but I think that's just gonna add to the flavor. We have 3 bottles of this left, including this one. We've begun rationing it out because our apple tree only produces every other year, and this last year was an off year. So this has to make it, these 3 jars have to make it until next fall for us. Now, in years past, I've always bought crust, but I finally decided recently that I wanted to figure out how to make my own crust, my own biscuits, all that kind of thing. Got bread down, but I wanted to be able to do more of that kind of thing. And now that I've figured it out, I cannot believe that I've been buying crust for all these years. Let me show you how easy it is to make your own crust. Okay, so the recipe calls for 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 cup cold butter cut into cubes, 1 teaspoon salt, 2 tablespoons sugar, and then 1/2 cup of ice water plus a little bit more. And now I want you to know there's nothing wrong with buying pie crust. I did it for years, but now that I know how to do this, it's actually faster for me to whip up a crust than it is to plan ahead, have to remember to buy it, and do all of that. I like to do it in my food processor because it's easy. So we're gonna put the flour, the salt, and the sugar all together in here. We're gonna close it up and pulse it just to mix those up. And then we're gonna add in the butter. Now, one of the things I had to learn was when I was first starting to do this, I was expecting it to look like a bread dough. So when I would add the butter in, I was mixing it for too long. I was mixing it too thoroughly and overworking the dough. So you can see this is very cold butter, and I've just cut it into cubes. And then what we're going to do is we are going to pulse it again, and we're just going to mix it to where it says pea-size butter pieces. But when I was doing that, I was mixing it too much. I was looking in and seeing that there was still too big of chunks in there, I thought, and then I was overworking it. Now, if you don't have a food processor and you want to do it the old school way, I picked this up during the holidays at Walmart. I think it was like on the dollar gadgets. And this is made for cutting in butter. Say this was your mixing bowl, you would just mix it in like this and cut that butter in. There's a way to do it if you don't have a food processor. Now, this food processor I bought on Facebook Marketplace for less than half the price that it is on Amazon. There's another way to save money. Okay, let's take a look at that. Let me show you. I'm gonna go just a little bit more than that. In fact, I'm going to grab a bowl scraper and just kind of mix it a little bit.
And why are you pulsing it instead of just letting it go?
Because that's how I overwork the dough.
Oh.
Now, if you do overwork the dough, it's just not gonna be as fluffy and flaky and a little bit tougher. Still tastes good, still 100% edible. And unless you have a crotchety old neighbor, no one's gonna complain about a good pie. Now, I'm gonna take that out and I'm going to add this water in, which this is the 1/2 cup. Now it's gonna make a super wet, shaggy, not even dough, like it's just gonna be all over you as you start working it. I'm gonna take a look at that. I am going to add a little more water to it. When I've made it, see how it's not going together very well? I've had to add the full 2 tablespoons because of the climate that I live in. Okay, so now look at this. Can you see how it's a little bit more, like it comes together? There's enough moisture, but you still got chunks. I mean, can you see the chunks of butter that are in that? So now we're gonna dump this out. And like I said, I was expecting it to look like a bread dough. And so when I first made this, I was like, this isn't right. I went to YouTube University, watched a bunch of different videos on them, on making pie crust from scratch, and figured out what I was doing wrong, which was overworking it. This is what you want it to look like. And now what you're gonna do is you're gonna start pressing it together. So you can see the chunks of butter. So basically at this point, you're using your hands to start making this into an actual dough. Now, if I was making biscuits, which are very similar in ingredients, then I would cut this and I'd start stacking them on top of each other, the layers, and laminate them. That's what gives you those flaky layers of biscuits where they rise. You don't need that with your pie crust. So I'm going to cut this in half because this does make 2 crusts. And I'm just going to move this one off to the side while I work this one. I'm gonna work it back into a round. Now this dough can be frozen ahead of time. So like at this point, you would put it in saran wrap and basically make it into this disc, put it in the saran wrap, roll it so it's tight in that disc that's about this big of saran wrap, and stick it in your freezer so you can have it pre-made ready to go. A lot of the recipes that I looked at said to chill this and to make it ahead of time. I never plan far enough ahead. I have found it works just fine. If it starts to get too warm, then you're gonna wanna stick it in your fridge. Now this rolling pin is another one of my cheats. I about used it to death. I have a really hard time rolling stuff at an even thickness all the way. And with these, I can set the depth that I want it, and it keeps me from going thinner as I'm rolling off of it, like tends to be my natural habit. Yeah, you can see how much butter is still mixed in, big butter chunks. Like I said, I've about used the thing to death. The ends don't want to stay in anymore. Maybe time to replace it. Take one of these discs off and go just a little bit thinner. Okay, so we went down a size. You know what the best part about pie crust is? You're not entering country fair with this one. It doesn't have to be beautiful. And I'm sure that there are some of you, I need to get some flour out. I'm sure there are some of you who are pie crust gurus who are mortified right now. But my family loves it. Now the wrappers from the butter I threw over here in the pie tin so that I could grease my pie plate. Now comes the challenge. Probably should have put some flour down, and this is where chilling it comes in. Pie crust is one of those super forgiving things. Like I said, I'm not going for an award at the county fair. I'm just trying to make something that tastes good. Okay, so there is the other half for our top. Let me wash my hands real quick. I always get nervous doing stuff like this on camera because what if it doesn't turn out? And John says, then we just pivot and do a crumble instead. We take the bits and pieces of the crust and top it with it.
I can smell it over here.
Remember what this day smelled like?
Mm-hmm.
Smell that.
Smells like the apple pie candle, but better.
But better, yes. I'm going to get this dished in here, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we made it. Here comes all the caramel. How do you guys say it? I always say caramel. Okay, now these slices. We did with what my kids affectionately call the Slinky Maker, which is this gadget. So this peels, cores, and makes the Slinky, whether it's an apple, potato, whatever that you run through it. So I would always give one of my younger kids the job to crank it. But then you just cut your Slinky in half, and that's what makes these. Now, another thing that we have used for putting up apples, we've all seen apple slicer where it cuts it into 8 slices. I found one online that does the 8 slices, but then it also unlocks, turns, and relocks and does 16 slices. So there's a couple of different options. I will link those, whichever one you want to use. You know, this takes less room to store, but it's more labor as far as the slicing. So those are a couple of the tricks that we use. Oh, the other thing is, when canning, it is not safe to use cornstarch to thicken up your pie fillings or any of that kind of thing. You have to use, this one's called thick gel. There's Sure Gel, Clear Gel. They're all basically the same thing, but just look for, it's all-purpose thickener for freezing and canning. Basically takes the place of cornstarch, but looks much nicer when it's in a project like this. And the recipe that we followed to make this pie filling is from the Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving. And all it has in it is apples, granulated sugar, the gel I just showed you, cinnamon, nutmeg, water, apple juice, and lemon juice. Can you get much cleaner than that?
And it's a water bath or
Yeah, they're water bath.
easy for a startup
Mhm.
dinner.
I mean, this was one of the
First things we can't.
Yeah, when we moved into this house, there was a mature Golden Delicious tree, which we love. It's not uncommon for us to get a minimum of 7 bushels off that tree. And there's only so much applesauce and stuff that you can make. So we started trying to figure out what other things could we do with those apples. We dehydrate them, we've canned apple slices, we do tons of applesauce, and we send that to all the grandbabies, which my kids and my grandbabies won't eat any applesauce other than grandma's. I don't know what it is about it, but you try to feed them anything else and they think you're trying to poison them. They make all kinds of horrid faces. We're like, what else can we do with it? Because we still had tons of apples left. And so we tried making the apple pie filling. And I'll tell you, a project like that is so worth it because you make the time investment once. And these jars have been sitting on our shelf. Like I said, my kids ration my canning. You know, when we grew up, sometimes it was embarrassing isn't the right word, but we were like, oh, our moms can. My kids, Mom, I've got friends coming over. You get the good stuff out. They didn't want the store canned stuff. They wanted the stuff that we put up, which, you know, that does a mom's heart good, that the work is paying off. We only have a few jars left, and so then it becomes, okay, someone having a baby, someone had surgery, kids are all coming over for a visit. That kind of thing is what it gets used for. And just like that, we've got the second crust rolled out and ready to go. The butter is getting a little soft in this, so I'm trying to work fast. Like I said, I know there's those of you that are just cringing watching this, but
It is not a perfectly round circle.
well, not only that, it's sticking, it's definitely not fair.
But the point of this is to show them that you can do it.
You get to eat your failures.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Tasty thing.
You know, you get some people that their specialty is pies or sewing, gardening, painting, drawing, whatever. Pies are not mine, but it still tastes really good. I'm gonna pop a couple of vents in it, like I do for our pot pie. And really, for a lot of people, an apple pie should be lattice topped, or it should be when you do the double pie crusts.
Oh, yeah.
You do the weaved lattice top.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm lazy. Now you can, go ahead and crimp this with a fork. You can just do it the lazy way like I do, where it's just kind of a standing up. It works. So there we go. But what's our total time on that, including the talking at the beginning?
27 minutes.
That really didn't take me that much longer, if at all longer, when you factor in having to pull the refrigerated dough out to warm up to where it's pliable enough and then do it. So I'm gonna get this in the oven. We're gonna eat our dinner and then we'll enjoy some dessert. I think we even have ice cream in the fridge to have it all a mode. So we'll show you when it comes out of the oven. Okay, so we baked it for about 45 minutes at 375. It looks pretty good. So don't be afraid to try new skills. I mean, some things, one shot and you're done. This, you get some tasty failures. So give it a try. If you're looking for an even simpler recipe, check out my blackberry cobbler. It's a recipe I grew up eating and I have made it for my kids and they love it. We're multi-generations now and it is even simpler than this was. But you know, being prepared isn't about it being difficult and being all this work and all this gear and all this. It's about putting up things to save yourself time down the road, to make it simple, to make it easy, and to be able to whip up a dessert that makes you look like Betty Crocker in an hour of time, including cooking. I hope you enjoyed this and we'll catch you next time.